Do you suggest God writes the code? What is your thought on that?
Do I think that there's a supreme intelligence that set this whole thing in operation and keeps it that way? Yes. Do I call that intelligence God? No, because that term has been terribly distorted in this reality. And when I think of the concept of God or a higher creative intelligent source, I do not picture a man on a seat with a long white beard. Sorry. You know, I don't buy into the gods of man, the ones that men have created in the image of himself. It went the other way around. To me, that creative intelligence could almost represent a massive morphogenetic field within which all intelligence exists and always will. And every piece of intelligence or piece of biology or piece of consciousness, identity, walking around is literally a piece of that identity, of that supreme creative intelligence. It's not that we're little beings down here being manipulated by some big being in the sky. We have a tremendous amount of choice because ultimately we are that creative energy. We are God, but not just the we that we know here when we look in the mirror. We are much bigger than the identity that we're able to put in our bodies here. And as you expand, there's a lot of traditional, like spiritual traditions that do lead you through paths of initiation, which are really doorways of understanding. Where you start to expand into those higher levels of identity, you will hit a point where you realize you're a plural, for one. It will no longer be me, it'll be we, because you realize I am a soul and I have X amount of incarnations that are simultaneously taking place in various time-space locations. You're no longer just a you, you're a we. And when you go higher and higher and higher, in the highest levels, before you leave dimensional systems, you know yourself as the dimensional system. It goes back to the concept of pulling energy from the unified field into the morphogenetic field and thereby expanding the morphogenetic field to being more and more and more. Eventually it expands to include all things. And eventually our consciousness does the same thing. Our consciousness works like a morphogenetic field. We bring in more and more frequency, more and more experience, and it changes who we are, and that will change the types of body we manifest through to the point where we don't manifest through a body anymore. Once you have 7-dimensional frequencies contained within your consciousness, you no longer fit into a body form. You are pure consciousness. And there are worlds of evolution beyond that. So it's kind of a neat process of taking it, everything that's out here is really what you're going to become. Because as you become more spiritually aware, and as that spirituality expands, you begin to know yourself as all of those things. You begin to know the separation between people and objects and things becomes not real. And you realize that there is oneness. And that's called the sacred law of one. That realization that it is all one. And there is a state of consciousness where you just know that. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty awesome. You can't put it into words. But you can look at the separations, you can look at different people, and say, you know, I acknowledge that you are in this body and I am in this body, but on a much bigger level, you know you are the same being. And it's called God realization. That's what God is. It's when you get to the point where you are at one with the universe and the universe is at one with you, and that you know everything outside of you is not really outside of you at all. It's inside of you. So that's what we're growing into. And it's a mechanical process that involves particles and dimensional frequencies and all that kind of stuff. But it is also a spiritual process that involves cognitions that can't be fit into definitions, but they can be felt. So that, you know, that's the process I see this as being involved in. I don't see us being directed and controlled by some superior force. I see us working cooperatively with it, or being unaware of it and not knowing how to work with it. And therefore we kind of work against the natural flow of balances that are created from that level of intelligence. And when we work against that flow, we tend to get run over by it. You know, it's like you have a soul level of identity, it'll guide you, you know. So I don't know, does that answer the questions?